everyone. And thank you to the BioFi project for bringing us all together. My name's Cheryl Chen, and I'm calling from the home territories of the Multnomah people in a place known as Portland, Oregon. My work focuses on a kin bioregion to Cascadia, a bioregion we call Salmon Nation. It's defined by the historic range of wild Pacific salmon from California's Salinas River in the south to the North Slope of Alaska. So next slide. And so in my world, I can't talk about finance without first talking about salmon. Salmon have been nourishing and connecting ecosystems for millions of years. And after years in the open ocean, salmon come back to their home streams, giving everything in their return, feeding forests, food webs, and making way for the next generation. And actually, their return is the greatest nutrient transfer from one habitat to another on Earth. Next slide. And so that's why we named our bioregional fund Salmon Returns, where finance is guided by the land and led by the people. Next slide. So we began to conceptualize Salmon Returns. We traveled the bioregion to listen to elders, matriarchs, change makers, and we heard clearly that bioregional work isn't about, necessarily drawing new lines on a map, but it's about an honoring of the ecologies we live in and recognizing and honoring what's already in these places. And so to us, bioregionalism is all about remembering, is making visible the regeneration that's already happening and lifting it up. Next slide. And so with that in mind, we began to build an ecosystem of people to go on a journey with us. And at the heart of that journey is our advisory circle. These are people that bring deep wisdom ranging from empowering Indigenous youth to community health and healing to building billion-dollar funds. In our advisory circle, we specifically also have Indigenous leaders like Vanessa Roanhorse and Kim Pate and Penalty Straws, who've been rematriating economies for decades and are guiding us to answer a call to rematriate finance, essentially aligning capital with healing, reciprocity, and long-term community benefit. And from our advisory circle, we're also shaping our governance circle to root our protocols and practices in ceremony, abundance, and mutual accountability. And in our case, since we're building an ecosystem of collaborators, governance isn't just internal to us, it also includes how we listen, how we partner, and how we avoid extraction, even in our good intentions of working with land-based communities. So in this way, our hope is that Salmon Returns, is moving capital in a way that becomes a practice of healing and mutual reciprocity and community building. Next slide. And so at Salmon Returns, our core strategy is to accelerate the transition to an economy based in regeneration. And to do that, we focus on the support of regenerative community enterprises. So things like community benefit forests, food hubs, energy microgrids, healing centers, intergenerational stewardship enterprises, housing co-ops. These are really more than just investments. They're the backbone of regenerative economies. They anchor self-sufficiency, cultural renewal, and local resilience. And they not only just build economic power, but they build the capacity to care for culture and land and future generations. Next slide. And so here's a schematic of our capital flow model. Our model starts with flowing philanthropic dollars via grants, contracts, and catalytic investments with the purpose of building community readiness, meaning local capacity, governance, and enterprise development. Really what it does is help mature these investable opportunities and attract and unlock vastly larger holdings of aligned capital, both public and private, that are looking for credible community-led opportunities. Next slide. So since last summer, we've put in the groundwork to build an emerging flow of regenerative opportunities across the Okanagan region, Great Bear Rainforest, Southeast Alaska, and Klamath River Basin in California. And in our portfolio, we're developing supports for regenerative ag, living forest economies, and salmon-based biocultural credit systems. $15 million of aligned capital has already been mobilized in our early projects under our shared strategy. And we're now raising $2 million to deepen this work. And we're partway there and preparing for a $15 million raise to initially capitalize our fund by the end of 2027. And to truly work at the scale needed to secure community-held assets. Our 10-year goal is to raise $100 million in catalytic capital to unlock over $1 billion in aligned investments by private and public funding sources. And by 2030, we aim to fund our fund to be self-regenerating through investment returns. Next slide. So our structure is cross-national, as Brandon was saying. And given the current geopolitics, it's designed to both pass funds across the national border, but also be standalone on either side if need be. And so we have a donor advised fund in the US, one pending in Canada, an LLC in the US, and a pending charity in Canada. And we designed the structure so that on both sides of the border, we can deploy funds as contracts or grants or investments so that financial capital can show up in the way it needs to at the right stage of development with minimal friction and bureaucracy. So be it you're a nonprofit, an individual, or a company, we can flow finance to you on either side of the border. Next slide. So let me ground this with one living example, the Okanagan. This region is the last viable path for salmon to return to the upper Columbia River Basin, one of the mightiest salmon rivers in the entire bioregion. It's also British Columbia's food basket with over 5,000 farms, $1 billion plus in annual revenue, and a key site for climate adaptation. Next slide. And so there's a growing network of regenerative farmers like Fresh Valley Farms and Shuswap Organics. They're leading the change. They're shifting practices, supporting neighbors, and building back-end systems, but they need capital to grow. Groups like Land at Table are creating infrastructure like the food shed to get local food into schools and hospitals. They need catalytic philanthropy, though, and capital on their terms with models like Exit to Community to ensure their essential food infrastructure stays locally held. And then there's Discovery Organics, a wholesale distributor who can't keep up with consumer demand for local regenerative produce, especially with the US tariffs on the rise and Canada working to open up domestic trade. The demand for healthy local regenerative food is bigger than ever.
1 minute, Cheryl.
Cool, thanks. And First Nations like the Okanagan Indian Band are reclaiming food sovereignty through Sun Valley Ranch, 1,500 acres of healing, ceremony, and cultural renewal. And so we have a chance to lift up what is already happening here in the Okanagan to help it be a leading example of a thriving, secure, regenerative food system where food is an anchor of self-determination in this last salmon stronghold in the upper Columbia River Basin. Next slide. And so in partnership with Sacha Investments and Simon Fraser University, we launched the Okanagan Catalyst Network to accelerate this work. And we've already flowed 15 million, as I mentioned before, into farmland and regional food distribution networks under our shared strategy. And so this is just one fractal of a much larger story. And I think I have a last slide here, just an end slide. And so with that, yeah, I'd welcome anyone who's interested in learning more to get in contact with us, to visit our website. And thank you again to BioFi Project for the opportunity to share a bit about our work.